Hi, this is Joe Lewkowicz, and this is our monthly real estate update for what's happening in the market right now. Today happens to be June 8th, 2017. Overall market conditions are still really good. We're actually, our market's best months are March, April, May, June, July. We're in the last 2 months of our best 2 months, with June and July being our actually strongest sales times. Once school starts, the market starts to begin to soften a little bit, but right now we're in the heat of the market. Sales prices have been increasing roughly around the country about, I think what I heard the other day was 6.5% from the previous month at this same time last year. In Tampa, varying by location, but you're probably looking at about anywhere from Old Carrollwood area of about 8 to 9% from last year to closer to Pasco County of 5 to 6%. Certain areas where the hot schools situations are, which would be zip code 33556 up around Lutz Lake Fern Road for Steinbrenner High School, you're looking at appreciation rate of about 10, maybe 11% overall this year. Talked to an appraiser yesterday who was saying prices really haven't gone up all that much from what she's seen. Here's what we're seeing really sells. Houses that are in absolutely top condition are moving the market very strongly. People will buy those. And I think the reason is that houses have gotten to be so expensive so quickly. In other words, if let's say that we had an appreciation rate for a certain area of 10%, take Old Carrollwood, or take up around Villa Rosa off of Lutz Lake Fern Road, where the properties have gone up that much. $300,000 house is now $30,000 more. Well, if you also include the 0.5% interest rate hike that we've had since last year at this time, that requires almost a 10 to 13%, 14% increase in purchasing power, which hasn't happened. People just don't make that much more money. So what's happening is buyers are being picky because they just don't have the cash to fix things up after they get into it. A lot of them have the cash flow, but they're going to be maxed out. And so they're going, let's see what we can get. However, there's just much less inventory. People have either decided to stay in their homes, they were upside down for so long, and now they're back to being even. We've dropped from nationally from 1 out of every 6 houses being as a foreclosure to where we're down to, 1 out of every 15 homes is a foreclosure. We're looking at a national foreclosure rate of 6% of the homes nationally on the market are foreclosure. And in Tampa, that number is still dropping even less than that because the market has picked up. So that's kind of where we are in our market as of today. Again, remember, best 2 months coming up right now, and offers are coming in, pretty quickly. So wanted to know if we have any questions coming in from people listening, and be happy to answer that. So just see, we've got several people online. Here's the first question we've got. In which neighborhoods do I primarily work? So again, Joe Lewkowicz, and I cover Northwest Tampa and North Tampa. So if we were to take my primary area, I-275 and Bush Boulevard, go straight over to Pinellas County and straight north to Pasco County line, actually State Road 54, add some of New Tampa in, Tampa Palms specifically, that's where I work. Have been doing this now. This actually is my 40th year in the business, and so have been enjoying myself on this side of town. Oh, another question. What percentage of your clients are buyers versus sellers? Well, we get a lot of people calling in on, who call on my listings and that. And the hardest part is getting them qualified to buy our home. I sell about 1 out of every 5 of my own listings. Okay, which is pretty standard for the industry, maybe a little bit higher than some. And the reason is, everybody's out looking. They're all on online sites. if you get hold of them in the next 5 seconds, you're able to convert them, but you just don't know how qualified they are. And we want to make sure that everybody who's looking at any of our properties can actually, A, they want to buy that, and B, can they afford it? You know, because what I'd said before about affordability things. So trying to see if, oh, okay, just got another question in. I live in zip code 33618. I'm currently a renter, but I'm looking to invest in my first home. What do you recommend I do first to go about the buying process? And this kind of goes along with what we just talked about with, are they qualified to buy one of our listings? I recommend that before you ever go out the door to look at a house, even if you're just interested, get hold of your banker, get hold of a reputable mortgage broker. They're going to do it without a charge to say, what can I qualify for? Have them run your credit report. I know people will say, well, it's going to ding my credit. If you do it just once, that's probably not going to be an issue. Now, if you go and run around to 5 or 6 different companies, yeah, they're going to say that you're accessing your credit too much. But this way, a mortgage broker can tell you any issues that you've had in your credit. He can tell you with the income that you're giving them, and be very honest with them about income coming in, debts that you might have, any little hidden student loans, have you been divorced, have you got a alimony payment, all that. Because this is only going to affect you, and trust me, when they go to verify, to do the long-term written verifications, it's all going to come out. Even on buyers, they do a title search. So at the end of it, you're going to know, can I afford a $300,000 house? Can I afford a $350,000 house? Now, they may say you can afford a $400,000 house and you only want to buy $300,000, so you want to be careful. What you want to know is, what's the best that I can afford, okay? Now, and I'm going to tell you as a first-time home buyer to really push the max a little bit. And the reason I say this, because I bought my first house. Candidly, we underbought. And a year later, I'm going, it's easy for me to make the payments just because I got used to it. I knew I should have spent more money, but didn't want to. And all of a sudden, like 5 years later, actually 2 years later, my wife's saying, I want to move. Okay, so if you buy enough house to begin with, you're not going to have to move as often. And it does cost money to sell a house, and it costs money to buy a house. Okay, got another question come in. I am putting my house up for sale. Does it matter the market conditions? If so, how do you feel about listing online versus having an agent list my home? Great question. One of the things I've got right now, as of this week, I've sold 5 houses, and I've got 2 more that we're working on offers. And that's a lot for any agent in a week's period. Some people, that's their year. But the thing is, there's all the little hidden tactics that a good agent brings to the table to help A, get an offer to begin with, and B, then make sure it was getting the people what they need to get. Online, you have absolutely no one working for you. You have no one feeding in all the gaps. I mean, buying a house is a complex process. There's all the logistics of moving, there's the sellers moving, there's the buyers moving, there's hiring movers, there's getting approved for a mortgage company, there's getting all the title work done, getting the insurance, getting the home inspections to make sure everything works right. I mean, at the end of the day, candidly, you hire me for a lot of the stuff that I do after we go to contract to make sure that what everybody wanted to do to begin with is all there when we go to closing. Closings, how quick do they happen? Sometimes they happen, some buyers unrealistically want to get together in 2 weeks, okay? But some want to take 90 days. So I'm working on that, trying to make sure that all of this is done right. So just got another question. I am purchasing a property, but before I do so, I know that I have to do the proper research on the property to check for previous history. Any sites you can recommend? There's a few new sites that are coming online. I haven't used them. I don't know how valid they are, unfortunately. The ones that I go through automatically are, go to the Hillsborough County Tax Assessor's office. They're going to have a lot of information. They're going to know, is it enough, you know, if you learn how to click on the maps, you can find out whether it's in a flood zone or, you know, what all the other history of it is. But really, if you're working with a realtor, and they should be able to find out a lot more history. Like, I can look up, how many times has this house been for sale? What did it sell for before? What did the old listing say? Is there a property disclosure done on that? Are there any legal entanglements coming with that? One of the things that generally is required on a title search is a municipal lien search. Shows, like the last one of the ones that I had showed all their electric bill, all their, any permits that weren't finalized, were permits pulled for what they said they should have done, that kind of thing. And that's one of those that, working with a good realtor, they're going to make sure you get all of that. Another question, I just got relocated to zip code 33624. How much are property taxes in 33624? Should I expect an increase, and by when? That is a great question. Most people look at properties as, they see what the taxes are for the current homeowner. Let's say that they're buying a house for $300,000 and the property tax, the current property taxes are $2,800. Well, that person, it doesn't matter whether you're in zip code 33624 or zip code 33611, which happens to be in Tampa. 33624 is in Hillsborough County. The tax rate in Hillsborough County is going to be a little bit less, but here's how they're going to approach it. You bought, for the remainder of the year, if you closed in June, you're going to owe taxes for the current year, and they're going to be based on what the seller's old taxes were. Again, let's use the $2,800 number. Okay, the seller's going to give you half of the year if you close June 31st, so they're going to give you $1,400, and when the tax bill comes due at $2,800, they're going to give that to you. But next year, this is going to get reassessed. The most common formula, and they don't have to do this legally. Legally, the tax assessor can assess you at 100% of the market value, which would be what you paid for it. Generally, they go 80%. So in other words, a house of $300,000 gets assessed at $240,000. The millage rate is a little plus or minus 0.2, okay, 0.002. That means $2 per thousand. So $240,000 is a $4,800 tax bill. Now, if you have homestead exemption, you're going to get $1,000 off your taxes. So instead of $4,800, it's going to be $3,800. But that's $1,000 more than what the taxes were before. So just figure that when I'm showing people a house, I tell them it isn't going to be what the taxes were before. It's going to be what the new people are. And where this really makes a difference is, I remember a friend of mine sold a house on Tampa Bay on Davis Island. And he had complained that his taxes were too high and they were running $5,000 a year, but he sold the place for $1 million. Well, the reassessment on that place was almost $30,000. The tax rate was a little bit higher. I think after all the wheeling and dealing got done on it, the new taxes were $25,000. So the new buyer was hit with $20,000 more in taxes than what the guy sold it for. Okay, got another question that came in. Should I just list my home for sale by owner? Is there a reason I should use a realtor and accrue all those additional fees? When you go to sell a home yourself, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. And candidly, only one person's going to save the commission. The only reason people who get to hire a realtor, the way the system's set up, it's all done on the listing side where the realtors are paid for. Okay, so if somebody's going to look at a for sale by owner, the reason they're doing that is because they want to save the money. And they also don't know what they're doing. Remember I said just a bit ago, you're going to pay me for a lot of all the stuff that happens after the closing, plus for getting you a reasonable offer while you have it for sale. You know, at the end of the day, you might make a little bit more selling it on your own, but trust me, when moving day comes, you're going to appreciate that you've used somebody that really knows what they're doing. And I've had people where I know at the end of the day, they left money on the table and, you know, they just didn't get ahead on the whole thing. So another question, are we headed for a recession in the Tampa Bay housing market? If so, by when, and how should I prepare as a new investor? I get this a lot. I got this a lot back in 2005, 2004, 2006. And that's when the market really took a big downturn. If we keep going, now I'm not really seeing, I think one thing in the Tampa Times showed that there was one area that had appreciation rates of 25% year over year. back in 2005, I remember that there were many neighborhoods that had 20% appreciation for 2 years in a row. With inflation and salaries going up at 3% a year, the housing prices far outpace what people can actually afford to own. Remember, I gave the example with prices going up just 10% a year, interest rates going up 0.5% a year, your purchasing power drops by 15%. Okay? If they go up by 20% a year, and all of a sudden the interest rates go up by another 0.5% or 1%, you've got almost a 25% drop in purchasing power. That leads to a fall off in the market. Okay. Now we don't have a huge buildup in inventory, so I'm not sure if we're really in a crunch yet. And we're not having 20% appreciation. We're having roughly about 10%. Now, if we go 10% a year for 3 or 4 years, we're going to far outpace inflation. We're going to far outpace salary increases. And let me give an example. School teachers don't get a 5 to 10% increase per year. Okay, they just don't. I don't know really of anybody whose salary that gets a 5 to 10% increase year over year. And that's where it's hard to keep up with the market. So when is it going to happen that we're going to have a downturn? You know, the 20 years prior to 2000, 2001, from 1975, 77 when I got into business, wrote a newsletter for the whole thing, through 2001, our average appreciation was anywhere from 3% in North Tampa to 5% in South Tampa, and it stayed consistent year in, year out for 22 years. We could probably sustain the level of appreciation for a considerable amount of time. If all of a sudden we really get going too high, then we'll have a fall off. And you know, there's other people that make way more money than I do trying to predict that one way or the other. Okay, got another question in. How quickly can you get me into a home is what a question that I just got. If you're approved for a loan, well, let's just say if you were paying cash, I can get you into a house in a week. If the sellers aren't living there, I can close it that quickly. If you're getting a new loan, you're looking at 30 to 60 days. Generally takes 2 weeks to get home inspections done, takes 3 weeks to get the appraisal back. Usually once I'm past the home inspection and the appraisal, we're fine and clear to go. That total time, and usually to find a house that you like, somebody's living in there, so they've got to get out. And so you're looking at 45 to 60 days, I would say, is standard in our market right now today. Another question, how fast can you sell my home? What does the process look like? Okay, remember I told you I sold 5 houses this week, got 2 in the wings. Of the 5 that went to contract this week, none of them have been on the market for more than 3 weeks. So that's kind of the state of the market right now. One of the other offers I had that it hasn't gone through yet. They've been on the market for not quite 30 days. And one more that I just got going, it's been on the market for 2 weeks. So you're looking at a standard market. The median time, well, my median time has been running 29 days year over year, but that includes, now again, what I said, we're in the hot time of the year. And which is June and July, so things move a little bit faster right now. Come December, January, even November through February, a little bit slower. Market time's usually taken 60 to 90 days if you price it right. And it looks like that was all the time I've got for today. If you guys want to get hold of me on my website or email me at joeluke@me.com, or go to my website and look over things there, and feel free to ask me any questions. Thanks again for tuning in.